The purpose of this video is to show how we can transform a table like the one that you can see on the screen in a table that is done according to the principles of data reduction. I would like to remind you that you can find all the principles of data reduction, a list of 10 items, in the lectures slides about data reduction. So, let's start again with a table like this. As you can see, with a table that is displayed in this way, it's very hard to think about what is the brand with the highest market share. So let's see how we can transform this table into a table that is done according to the principles of data reduction. First of all, let's select all the brands and the relative sales that we can see here. We can copy them and we can paste them in a new page. What we want to do is to paste, as we say, paste special, because we don't want to drag any format relative to the sales that we have attached to the table, nor we don't want to attach any particular formula that might have been attached to that particular label. So we go right click, paste special, and we can go under values and also transpose. As you can see, if we do copy and transpose, what we obtain, and let me maybe increase a little bit the size of the zooming of the table, we obtain a table that is now organized with the brands in the columns and also the sales that we have in the columns. From here, the important things that we have to do is, first of all, include the averages and the total. In order to include the averages, we write a very simple formula, which, of course, as you can imagine, says average, and we select all the brands that are part of this table. Then we go and select total, and in order to obtain that, we simply go and sum up all of the values that are part of our sales. Now, just a pure understanding of the sales might not be enough, especially because still at the moment we have not ordered all the brands by sales value. So one thing that we can do is to go under data on the Excel toolbar, go and sort the brand by sales and organize them by the largest to the smallest. As you can see, what we obtain now is the list of brands organized by the brand with the highest market share, sorry, the highest level of sales to the lowest level of sales. Let's go now and find what are the market share that each brand owns in this particular category. As we are going to see in a couple of weeks, we're going to identify the market share as the portion that the brand owns of a particular market. Therefore, the formula to get the market share is the quantity, the number of sales, the number of units that we have for a particular brand divided by the sum of units or the sum of money for the whole category. So we simply write here equals the sale of any particular brand divided by the sum of any particular brand. It's important that we learn how to use this value here called the dollar sign, because with the dollar sign you basically block the cell that you want to use as a reference. For example, in our case, we want to standardize and we want to divide any number, any level of sales by the sum of the sales for the whole category, so the denominator is common across all brands. Therefore, we want to include that dollar value so that we can copy and paste the formula. We can change therefore the numerator for this division, but the denominator, the sum of sales, remains the same. Another thing that we do is to multiply this value by 100. The reason why we do that is because one of the other principles of data reduction says that we don't want to have any sign in the body of the table. So we don't want to see any dollar value. We don't want to see any percentage value in the body of the table. So by multiplying this decimal value that we would obtain by 100, we obtain a value that is expressed as percentage point. We go and click OK, and as you can see now, we see that Skip has 34.6, we can say, of market share. There are different ways in which you can now copy and paste the formula down for the column. You can simply copy and paste the formula down, or you can right click, go click copy, and then you can paste the value. There is also a third way, which is to select on the bottom right part of the cell that you want to copy and paste and simply drag the value down. Again, we now calculate the average of the market shares, and we also calculate the sum of this market share. It's important that we double check that the sum of our market share equals 100, because of course, being, as we said before, a pi, if the value equals to 100, then we've done a good calculation. Otherwise, we need to go back and double check what is that we've done wrong. This table is still incomplete. So let's see how we can make again this table better according to the principles of data reduction. We copy and paste the brand into a different column. Another thing that we do is to go here where we can say merge and center, and we want to merge the two tables for brand so that we will have space here on the right to include the title of each column and the units that we measure that column by. We also want to make it in the middle but left oriented. And also we write again here sales, and we write again here market share. These two values in the heading of the table needs to be centered. Another problem that we see in the first part of the table is that we don't want to see so many digits in any given number that we have on a column. So we said that one of the principles of data reduction is to adopt scales, which means dividing each of the numbers that we have in the column by a number, which in our case, for example, can be, say, 10,000, and we want to divide that number, and we want to divide every figure that we have in the sales, for example, by 100, so that we have digits in the table that don't present. We have numbers in the table that do not present a long list, a long number, of course, of digits. We adopt again the use of the dollar sign so that we can have we can copy and paste the formula down from the sales that we see in the head. We can copy and paste the formula down, as we said, until the total. And for market share, we said that the value that we include is the percentage sign. In this case, it doesn't really matter that we do any specific operation. We simply need to copy and paste the formula down so that we simply report the values of market share into the new table. Another important principle of data reduction is that we don't want to see a different number of decimal points, as you can see in both of these columns. So we're going to use these two buttons here to increase or decrease the number of decimal points that we have in the table. The principles of data reduction says that we can use none, 1, or 2 decimal points for this particular table. Let's say that we want to use 1 so that we standardize for every number that we have there. And if we also left oriented the table, we can see that we can make it oriented to the right, but nicely aligned in both columns. What else we have to do now? We need to display a grid, and we do that by going under this icon here and say that we want an outside border. We also want to separate the brands by the rest of the table, and we also want to separate the heading by the body of the table. Another principle of data reduction is that the heading needs to be different from the rest of the body of the table, and we can do something very simple as bolding the headings. Another problem that we have though is that if we copy and paste simply this table, say in a Word document, if we copy and paste that in a Word document as a table like this, um, you give the client the possibility to modify the table, and you don't want that to happen. So another option that you have is to copy and paste in the table as a picture, as you can see here. Let's make it a bit bigger. However, if you do this, you can see that there are still a lot of grid lines which are part of Excel that you drag from Excel into the Word table. And this is a bit ugly. So how can we solve this problem? We simply go back to the table, select the whole table that we want to copy and paste, and we fill it with a white color. By filling it with a white color, in the moment in which we copy now and paste the formula into a new Word document, and again we want to paste it as a picture, we don't see anymore any problem relative to the grid lines that we have there. The table is still not completed because we need to include another couple of things, which are the title, which is the title of the table, and the little commentary. How do we include the title? We go under References, then Insert Caption. From Insert Caption, you can see here that you have many options, depending, of course, on the type of graph or figure that you want to obtain. So, in this particular example, we have a table. So, we select Table. We give a title. For example, Sales and Market Share for Market Shares for the gents, and we click OK. Now, as we said, the really important role of the market analyst is not just to crunch data, but to obtain a table that is worthy and that can be interpretable. So now your job here is to write a comment about the content of the table. For example, we can see here that we can say that Skip is the market leader with 34.6% of market share. Le Chat follows and has a market share of 22%, which is higher than the average, while Ariel, Extra, and Domo all have a market share below the average. So we don't need to write a poem, especially when we have a simple table like this, but we want to be able to summarize what is the main content of the table. Another thing that I was discussing, and I would like to discuss with you guys, is the possibility, of course, to transform this table into a graph. So let's say, for example, that we want to obtain a scatter plot from here. Sometimes one of the problems that we have in Excel is that when we generate a scatter plot, the scale of the scatter plot, both for the horizontal axis and the vertical axis, do not match the numbers that we have in this particular table. Let's put it that for a second. So, in case, for example, you end up with a table where the dots that you can see in the table are not nicely displayed, you can right-click on one of the two axes, for example, the horizontal axis, say here, and modify the minimum or the maximum values, as you can see here, minimum and maximum, you can change these values, so that they fit the points, the dots that you have in this particular graph. So as you can see now, we have increased the scale up to 1600 units, and now you can see that you have all this big chunk of graph that is basically unutilized, and this is very ugly if you have something like that. So in this particular case, Excel did a good job and found a scale that is appropriate to the market that we want to analyze. But as you can see, you can play both in the the horizontal axis and the vertical axis to find a way, for example here, we can modify the minimum and the maximum so that we have all the values that we want for our particular table of graph. Again, once we have a graph or a table, we again want to avoid all these problems that we have here for the grid lines, so you can go under layout, grid lines, and say that you don't want to display any horizontal grid lines. Now, sometimes, especially for a scatter plot, it's a bit your choice to decide if you want to have a grid line or not. Certainly, if you decide to build an histogram, then in an histogram, for sure, you want to avoid any histogram, any grid line in the graph. Once again, you have a table and the graph that are done according to the principles of data reduction. So let's say we go back to the original format. Again, you can copy and paste the value under. Um, so you can copy and paste the value in the Word. Again, don't simply copy and paste it as an Excel document because otherwise people can modify it. But go under paste, paste special, and you can select as an enhanced meta file, as a bitmap, as a JPEG, which are all objects, which are all pictures that then are not modifiable. So you simply have your table here now. Again, paste special enhanced meta file. This is a graph that you cannot modify. Again, you would include a caption, which in this case now is a figure, and we will also call it sales and market share for detergents. And again, it will be your responsibility to write what the graph is telling, you. Um, so I hope this was an helpful video tutorial to understand better what are the principles of data reduction. If you have any problem, please post a question in the staff office forum, or ask your lecturer about the extra information about the principles of data reduction. Thank you.